I feel like I'm going through it because tell me why. It's already the middle of the year. I'm filming this in June. I have no idea what I'm doing with my life and everything's confusing. But you know what remains consistent? Reading, because it's literally one of my only hobbies. Anyways, I wanted to go through I cannot for the life of me say statistics. We're gonna go through some yeah, you know what we're going to go through, but we're going to go through that, and we're also going to go through some of my favorite books this year, some reading goals that I have for the rest of the year, all that fun jazzy stuff. Anyways, I'm the type of person who likes collecting data. It's really satisfying, and this year I've read 70 books, which is not an unusual amount of books that I read in a year. I feel like typically I will read 100 to 200 books a year, and I'm just a fast reader. I read a lot, but I broke down all the books that I've read into their different genres, and when I tell you the amount of books that I've read in specific genres, you will clearly see my favorites, and you will also be like, ooh, maybe you should experiment a little bit and read outside of these genres. But I'm sorry, I cannot help it. I have my favorite genre that I'm comfortable in, that I stick to, but I am also trying to get through my want to read list, and a majority of the books in that this specific genre. And I feel like it's very obvious if you've watched a majority of my videos, but I literally only read these other genres for videos, not out of my own free will. I mean, I'm reading it because I want to, but most of the time I come across them because of videos and doing like specific themes and stuff. Anyways, let's get into the different genres of books that I've read. We have 1 contemporary, 7 romance, 21 fantasy, 2 sci-fi, 2 dystopians, 8 light novels, which light novels to me include dramas, anything translated from Japanese, Chinese, or Korean into English, 1 lit fic, 26 manhwas, 1 historical fiction, and 1 mystery and thriller book. So, as you can tell, you know what my fave genres are? Fantasy and manhwas. I've gotten really into manhwas. I think even from last year. I've just started tracking them this year and putting them onto my reading list. So, I've read quite a few of them, and I really enjoy going through that. I don't know, I just have the urge to read completed manhwas. I love art and the different type of storytellings, especially because it's usually written by Korean authors. So it's just really interesting to see the different styles of writing and how that plays out in images and art. And I love beautiful art, and I don't know, people may not consider manhwas reading, and if you don't, you're crazy. It takes me a few days to read a manhwa, and if I were to binge it, I could probably read it in a day, but otherwise it takes a couple of days to read it. And I recommend reading manhwas if you really need a break from reading and you really need like pictures. The plots are so fun, and I just love manhwas, and that's why I've gotten really into it recently. And I've just been trying to catch up with a lot of them that have been completed in the past. However, because now I've read a majority of them, it's really frustrating because I'm trying to search for completed manhwas. But now I've finished all the ones that I've wanted to read, so now I have to wait for the ongoing manhwas. And then I look and I'm like, oh, you just started uploading 200 days ago? It's gonna take like 1,000 more days for this manhwa to be finished, and that is why I only read completed ones, because I do not have any self-control. But I have been reading in ongoing manhwas, but I'm not going to really talk about them because that makes me sad. I should have never started it. I also read a lot of fantasy. It's my favorite genre, so it's not surprising that I read a lot of fantasy. I do want to say though that with these genres, I did not want to mix the genres, if that makes sense. One book that's a fantasy is going to have romance in it. One book that is fantasy may also have sci-fi elements, so they can be in different genres, but I just put it in the main overarching genre. Something that is interesting is that I've started reading a few mystery slash thriller books and also some sci-fi books, but then I ended up DNFing a majority of them while going through my list. I was like, ooh, I read this sci-fi book. I look and no, I DNF'd it. Ooh, I started reading this mystery thriller. No, I never finished it. And I guess that's an issue. I start so many from different genres and then I just DNF it, and that's kind of a sign to me. There's probably a reason why I DNF those books, just because I'm not super into those genres, and that's kind of why I stick to the one that I usually read. But hopefully later I will explore a little bit more once I get through all the books in my TBR. this year I've DNF'd 15 books, which I think is a pretty good number. It's not an overwhelming amount of books that I've DNF'd, but you know, I have DNF'd some books this year. My overall star rating is 3.91 stars, which I think is pretty good. It's very high. A majority of the books have been 4 to 5 stars. I barely give books 1 to 2 stars, and if I did, that it's probably because I pushed myself to finish it and then I was like, oh, I should have DNF'd it. I'm glad that so far I have been having a really good reading year and it pleases my little heart. I've apparently read 26,494 pages, but take that with a grain of salt because I don't think that this is accurate at all. I'm the one that's inputting the amount of pages that the book has, and I don't think that this is right. I feel like it's better if Goodreads does it, for example, because they have the actual amount of pages. But with certain books, especially manhwas, they don't have pages, or sometimes I put the pages of the volumes, and I don't know. I think this is a lie. So don't take in the amount of pages that is read. That doesn't even matter, but I just like including it for fun. So let's get into some of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. First, I have I Wish You All the Best, which is about this person who comes out as non-binary. They get kicked out of their house. They then live with their sister and they go to this new school and experience this new life. And it's a story that really focuses on sexuality and identity. And I think that this is a good representation, especially as it focuses on a teenager and the fear of coming out, but also finding people that love and accept you. I just feel like this is such a great book because oftentimes when it is a book centered around teenagers in high school and it's a contemporary novel, I swear they just really focus on either the romance or figuring out what uni they want to go to, which valid because it's something that high schoolers go through, but at the same time it just feels so repetitive, and I just think that this book does such a great job on exploring the ideas of sexuality and identity and the struggle through that. So I really appreciated this book. It does have romance as well, but it's not the biggest part of it. I do think that the romance is cute though, and I love the relationship between them and their sister because they are kind of estranged from their sister, but just reading about the different family dynamic. When a Mon Crows is a very short fantasy book, so I think it's great if you want to consume something that is within the fantasy world, but you don't have to commit to a 500-page book or a really long series. I do think that there's a second book coming out, but I'm not exactly sure. But the world, the characters, the plot is so well written, and there's even romance. And the chemistry between them is 10 times better than a 500-page fantasy book, which shows that you can do a book well even though it's short. But I loved this book so much. I'm actually currently reading volume 13 of the Apothecary Diaries, and I cannot wait for the rest of the volumes to be released because season 2, as of when I'm filming this, is still ongoing and it's almost ending and I'm waiting for it to finish. I'm so excited. I hope that the anime continues till the end of the light novels, but I love the light novels so much. It is worth the read. The light novels are actually the only light novels that I've read after watching an anime, because usually I just watch the anime and I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I genuinely wanted to know the plot of the light novels. I wanted to know the spoilers because people love spoiling things within the Apothecary Diaries world, and I do not regret it. I genuinely love this series so much. The arc in volume 11 and volume 12 is so good, and these books get so intense because we have the politics, the romance, and the characters, and the way that they are written is so good because we get introduced to so many characters, but they have all their own backstories, and we get to see during this arc how all their backstories kind of interconnect. And oh my god, I swear, reading just these 2 volumes alone, I got whiplash because there were so many things that were being revealed and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. The amount of cliffhangers and the amount of plot twists that this series has is honestly crazy, and the author does such a good job at writing. The House in the Cerulean Sea was such a comforting read for me. I love reading about this fantasy world where we followed the monotonous life of Linus Bacon, seeing him break out by meeting these kids who have so much personality that really show him what life is, and forming a relationship with them, and realizing that he doesn't want to stay in the life that he is currently living in where people don't really care about him, and meeting these children kind of gave him a purpose in life. And I loved how vibrant the kids' personalities are, and I genuinely can see this as a movie. I think that this will be a beautiful movie. However, I do not like the sequel. I do not like Summer Beyond the Sea at all. This is one of those books that should have just been a standalone, because I was so excited to read the sequel, and then I read it and I was like, this is not good at all. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, in my opinion, is the perfect conclusion to the series. I love Emily Wilde in general. I just like how cozy the books are, and it's really interesting to read from Emily's point of view and just her knowledge about the fairy world. But what I really like about her in general is that she has very strong morals, but she's also knowledgeable about the fairy world. So when certain things happen, she kind of takes her own initiative to solve these problems through her knowledge. And what I like is that she's a normal human, but she's involved in this fairy world. Her husband, or like soon to be husband, is literally a fairy king, but she just seems so mundane. Like, she doesn't have any special powers, which sometimes fantasy female leads do tend to have. But I don't know, I just love how she's so human, but she's also so smart and so perfect for that fairy world, if that makes sense. I also love Emily and Wendell so much. I love their dynamic. Wendell's probably one of my favorite male leads. He's just so dramatic and charismatic, and I don't know, his character just has so much personality that is not like a broody man. I feel like he's so sunshiny, but at the same time, he does show a darker side when he needs to. However, in front of Emily Wilde, he's kind of like a little puppy. I don't know, the vibes of this book is just nice. It really gives you really fun academic, but somewhat fever dream, but cute romance and like well-written characters. The Adventurers Guild was actually a series that I finished reading recently, and a series that I've been wanting to read for a really long time. So it's a fun middle grade series, and it's about, okay, I don't know how to explain it, but this is how I always explain it, but I don't even know if people will get my reference. So think Attack on Titan. There's this city that lives within these walls, and outside these walls, it's dangerous. So that is why they are held within these walls, because if they go out, the whole of humanity is gonna be gone. So we have the Adventurers Guild, which are the only people who can travel outside of these walls, and they obviously get intertwined with like different dangers, which is what the monsters are called within this world. And there's a lot of quests, and they're so fun, but also the plot is wild. There were some things that happened where I was like, oh my god, I did not expect this at all. And then there would be like certain plot twists and certain things where I was like, oh my god. It just felt so nostalgic, but also the trilogy gets better and better as you continue. And I just love the characters. I loved their dynamic, especially because we get two point of views, which are Zed and Brock, and they're like besties, and their relationship is so cute, how much they support each other. But then we also get a bunch of other characters and their friendship, and seeing how their group kind of grows as they learn how to work together. The Luminaire Files is the two sci-fi books that I've read this year, and the Luminaire Files is genuinely so good. I'm telling you guys, read the Luminaire Files if you haven't, because it is so good. The amount of suspense and tension I had while reading this book, I finished it at night, and it was like the worst mistake, because I started reading it and then I was like, I gotta go to sleep. Like, my head is hurting, I cannot really take anything in, but I was just like, I gotta finish reading it. And it is so good. It's basically made up of a bunch of files, text messages, like video recounts, and then oh my god, the amount of stuff that is going on. It's a wild series. I'm telling you guys, you need to read it. Let's talk about some disappointing reads, which there's not a lot in this section, but the first one I would say is Thousand Autumns, which this is not like a bad read. Okay, I really enjoyed Thousand Autumns, but I think the expectation that I had was different from what I actually got. So I was a little bit like, I was so excited to read this book. It was in the back of my mind for this whole entire year, and then when I finally did, I don't know, I just think I hold like dame books or light novels in general at a higher standard because I don't know why. I think that they're so good compared to like Western books. But when I read this book, I was like, the plot to me just felt very boring. There was no plot. They were just fighting the whole entire book. I felt like they were supposed to have this political aspect, but it wasn't really established very well. It was barely there, and then the romance was slow burn to the point where I didn't really understand why they got together. I also don't like 𝐸𝐻𝐸. I don't like him at all. I have the biggest gripe against him, but I love 𝐻𝐸. The Beautiful series was a series that I've been wanting to finish for a really long time. This one was so disappointing though. I actually really like the writing. I loved the third book, but I think I loved the third book because it was about the side characters, which first of all, I was kind of like, we have two main characters. And then all of a sudden we're getting a story about the side characters. It felt totally random, but you know what? I love the side characters more than the main characters. The series, I swear, went so downhill because the last book, it just felt like, why did I even read this book? What was the point? All the romance went down the drain because there was so much miscommunication, and Celine, who is the main character, became so annoying, and there was so many issues because Bastion just wouldn't tell Celine certain things, and then she would miscommunicate and she would think that he was doing things in a different way, and then she would get angry and she would do her own stuff. And oh my gosh, this book made me so angry. And then the ending was so bad. It's one of those ending which is open-ended, but I'm like, the book was not worth the read. Sunrise on the Reaping, I know that some people may be mad when I say this, but Sunrise on the Reaping is not as good as everyone is making it out to be. I don't know why, but I feel like people are just so hyped around the Hunger Games that every single book that is released in the world, they will say that it's the most amazing book. I read it and then I was like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not as good as everyone is saying it is. And in my opinion, I don't really think that it was well written. I will have a video on this. I don't know if it will be posted before I post this video or after, but I will have a whole video on my thoughts surrounding Sunrise on the Reaping because I have a lot of thoughts. And then, as I mentioned before, Somewhere Beyond the Sea was a sequel that should not have been released, and I just think this book took away the development and the characteristics we had in the first book and then twisted it in a certain way to fit the plot of the second book, and I just didn't like it. It was a disappointing sequel to me. Let's talk about some of my favorite manhwas. First, we have Radio Storm. This is somewhat of a post-apocalyptic manhwa, which I am a sucker for those, but it's mainly drawn in black and white, and then there are certain scenes which are drawn in color, and it is so beautiful. But I love just stories in general which questions humanity and kind of sacrifice. Would you sacrifice this one person for the rest of, the world, the rest of humanity? And that kind of storyline I love reading about. Then we have Banana Scandal, which Banana Scandal season 2 and 3, the best chasing and groveling arc, and I love reading it. And it's so funny because I started reading Banana Scandal and I was like, the art is not, like, I'm not really enjoying the art, so I didn't end up reading it. And then so many people were like, Banana Scandal is so good, Banana Scandal is so good, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna read it. And then I do agree, season 2 and season 3, best chasing and groveling arc. The next book I literally cannot for the life of me pronounce. It's called Smyrna and Capri. I don't know how to pronounce Smar. Yeah, anyways, this one I really liked because I thought that the art was so pretty, but also we love consent and Green Flag Men. I think this is also an megaverse, and the whole idea of the megaverse in this particular world was pretty interesting. Also, it's not set in modern day time, so I also really like that because usually it is. And then the little spirits as well, they were like so adorable. But yeah, I really enjoyed, I guess, the romance in this book and how it wasn't super toxic, but also the overall plot was really interesting. And then we have Her Tale of 𝐸𝐮𝐬. This manhwa was honestly so heart-wrenching and also a manhwa that I've been wanting to read for a while, and it shows the expectation of women to just be wives and how the characters in the story just wants to break free of that. And the romance is quite cute because they're so in love, but at the same time they support each other in little ways, and the only ways that they can support each other, for example, I forgot what her name is. Is it Madam John? But she would provide 𝐸𝐮𝐬 with like food or clothing because that's what she could provide her. And with 𝐸𝐮𝐬, it would be like showing her more of the outside world and just like things that Madam John was never exposed to because she was always so secluded, and you know, she was expected to be this perfect wife, where 𝐸𝐮𝐬 was the complete opposite of that because she was a beggar. Books I really want to get to by the end of the year. First, I want to read The Disabled Tyrant, Beloved Pet Fish. I've had a lot of people say that this is a really cute, silly danmei book, which I'm excited for because oftentimes I swear they're always so angsty and I need something that's more light-hearted. It has 4 volumes, so I feel like I'm gonna get through them really quickly because I love light novels, danmei books in general. And then I want to get through my Goodreads want to read list, and I want to get through a lot of series and a lot of other danmei books. And I also have my new release which I want to get through. Honestly, I don't even know if I'll be able to get through them because there are just so many books that I want to read, but we'll see how many I will get through by the end of this year. And my reading goals for the rest of the year is to get through my Goodreads want to read list, which is my biggest goal so far. I'm starting this new series where I will focus on reading the books in my want to read list and maybe create some like fun video themes or something like that. And I also want to start doing vlogs specifically on certain books or certain series. For example, I don't know, maybe I'm reading the Chaos Walking series. I want to do vlogs specifically reading those series. I need to be committed and I need to get through all the books on my want to read list because they've been there for so long and I really need to get through them. I also want to finish the series I'm in the middle of. I've actually been doing a good job of finishing them. I've actually finished a majority of them already from the beginning of the year, but I do have some series that I have yet to finish, but I'm not like putting that much emphasis on it. And when I do start a new series, I do want to try and finish them back to back instead of just starting the first book and then not continuing on with them until the next year. That's basically all I have for my mid-year reading update. My throat is hurting so much because I don't normally talk for this long, so I'm just gonna end this video here. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.